Hi, this is Bryan Hixson, Neuroscience Director for the Brain Performance Center. I want to give you just a few second overview of kind of what goes on in the brain when we face the level of devastation, everything that Southern California has faced in the last week or so, and even more with the fires before that in Malibu. And so one thing I wanted to talk about is how the brain works. You have these different brain waves that fire off, which are just neurons that fire off at different speeds. And certain neurons called delta waves will fire off when you're going to sleep at night. We've got other neurons that fire off when you transition between asleep and awake. You're kind of daydreaming. And then we've got these neurons that fire off called alpha waves. And alpha fires off at this speed, which kind of neutralizes your brain. It kind of calms the brain down. It's like the brakes on the brain. That's why we use it for a lot of like mindfulness meditation. It brings us back to the present. And we're going to talk about these waves again in just a minute in more detail, because these are the ones that can really help offset some of these fight or flight waves that happen when there's this level of devastation. The next waves are beta waves, which are just getting things done, processing, thinking, executive function, encoding memories, all those things. And then we've got these high beta waves, which are these fight or flight waves. And fight or flight waves are produced in the brain when we cannot figure out something logically, when there's not a logical solution to something, when there's an emergency. We produce these fight or flight waves. They fire off across the brain and they shut down our logical thinking. They put our brain into kind of this limbic mode, which is kind of the worst case scenario, just instant reaction to things. We get huge aggression and anger. We get a lot of agitation, frustration, which could all work well if we had to evacuate our house and there's fire coming. We just need to get out of there. Those things all work well to help us narrow our attention and get something done. However, when that has stayed up for very long, and that can be a few hours to a few days to now a couple weeks of activity, when it stays up in the brain starts conditioning to that and starts producing those waves all the time. And the problem is it's hard to get back out of that. It's hard to shift down. It's very much what soldiers experience when they're in war for a year to 2 years and they're in this fight or fight all the time. And even a couple hours to a few days can hit that, especially a couple weeks now that we've been in. And so the problem is when we stay in that, we're very agitated, we're frustrated, we're not thinking clearly, we're more aggressive, we're more angry. We are using our energy towards things we can't control at all. And that's where we want to get back down into these alpha waves, which puts the brakes on it. And when you put the brakes on it, you become present, you become in the moment. And when you do, you can actually focus on the few things that you can do today, that you can control, that will help make a long-term, good thing happen towards your goal. And so the best way to get to these alpha waves is actually through intentional deep breathing. A lot of people I talk to say, I know how to breathe. Why is breathing so important? Obviously, just to get air in our lungs. No, the problem is you have a sympathetic nervous system, and that sympathetic nervous system is the way your system reacts to the environment around you. So if you're in a stressful situation, your breathing narrows, gets very shallow, and you are taking in more information, more oxygen, everything to help you get ready for something. When your situation or your environment is relaxed and peaceful, your breathing gets more deeper and it gets more relaxed. And so that normally we are breathing according to our environment around us. Okay? But then we have a parasympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system is activated when we intentionally breathe, when our breathing isn't a secondary effect to our situation, but where it's the primary effect. Even when we have a bad situation around us, when we intentionally breathe, like towards a breath pacer, where you breathe in, breathe out, where you're controlling your breathing, it activates your whole parasympathetic nervous system, which releases all of these alpha waves, and it calms down the brain. Okay? And it's the way we can bring it back down to this present state where we can get something logically done, something that matters, where we can use less energy and get more done. The problem with fight or flight is we're expending huge amounts of energy and getting little done logically, maybe escaping for an hour or so, which is good in some cases, but not ongoing. We don't want to chronically live there. So if we use a breath pacer, there's tons of breath pacers on the internet, YouTube, there's all these ones where you can do it, and you intentionally breathe. Just spend 5-10 minutes breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Try and slow down your breath as much as you can. And when you do, it activates these alpha waves, and it will be the best feeling of just, okay, I'm back to where I need to be. I can focus on what I need to focus on. My brain's not in fight or flight trying to do these daily activities when it's actually derailing us.